What was one of the most mysterious posts found on Reddit? There was a post in r/relationships maybe a year ago from a woman who had found some disturbing content on her boyfriend's computer. He had gone out of town and she was looking through his laptop and found out about his extreme BDSM and torture fetish. She was an Asian woman and his fantasies about torture apparently focused on Asian women. She said some other stuff, like about how he would go out of town on hunting trips with old buddies for days at a time, but she had never met any of these friends. There was some other circumstantial, potentially disturbing stuff. She deleted the post soon after and I never saw anything about it, but a lot of people were telling her to get out of the house before he got back. I think it was from /relationships. Woman who thought she was being gaslighted by her boyfriend? She described smelling cooked fish but he would serve chicken for dinner. Eventually commenters convinced her to go to the hospital. She updated with, "It's a brain tumor, I have surgery tomorrow." It legitimately freaked me out. It was really weird things too, like she would think her boyfriend told her that he was cooking salmon. She would smell salmon cooking, and then she would walk into the kitchen and he would have made lasagna. Or that he would have told her that he was going out that evening, and then she'd come home and he'd be like, "Didn't we agree that we'd do movie night?" Or something like that. She thought her boyfriend was playing mind games with her and was super confused, and then the edit was just, "This is scary, but I have a tumor in my brain. I'm having surgery tomorrow." And that was that. No update ever again. Scared me, actually. I hope she was okay. On r/relationship a few years ago there was a post, if I remember correctly, a family friend was staying with a married couple, after being diagnosed with cancer and being incredibly down on his luck with prior ailments. The wife started noticing inconsistencies in the friend's stories, and him never wanting company to any of the doctor visits seemed a little odd. She was also questioning how he could appear in relatively good health, while claiming he's receiving aggressive treatments for his health issues. She posted because she was growing suspicious and wanted validation if it was odd, and if so, how to approach her husband with it. Fast forward to a few months back, and Teresa sword and scale episode about it. Apparently the friend stabbed and killed her, stabbed the husband, then tried to kill himself. He was faking all along, while stealing money from the wife's company. I've searched for the post, but haven't been able to find it. But I do know the episode. It's Sword and Scale episode 98. Saw a post on r/legal advice about a year or two ago about a woman or older teen looking through some old family tapes she had found, and on one of them was her as a child being molested by her dad and filmed by the mother. Everyone in the thread told her to take the tape to the cops and to make sure her parents didn't see her do this. Not sure if we ever got an update on that. There was a guy on r/legal advice who claimed that every time he stepped outside, whether the front or back door, his neighbor would honk their horn. He said it would happen every single time without fail, but not when anyone else in his household went out. He also said it was happening for several years. Everyone was suggesting he had a mental illness, which was a likely explanation, but I wish we got an update from that guy. Had a woman claiming her neighbors were honking their horns at 4 a.m. and prank calling her. She called about 20 times reporting this. Officers sat down the street and observed silence while she was calling in car horns. A look in her history showed this happened in 4 other cities that she lived in. Clearly nuts, right? She downloaded an app that reveals blocked numbers. I called the number, and her neighbor picked up. A phone records request revealed they actually were calling her and messing with her every single night. There was a thread asking older virgins why they were still virgin. This 40-something-year-old guy answered, and then his last sentence was some joke about suicide. People kept prying, and he eventually said something about waiting for his mother to die so he could kill himself guiltlessly. I think he said she had just died and he planned to do it in about 3 months or something. He had this thing all planned out and thought through. He said no one could talk him out of it, and after going through more and more of his post history, he seemed more and more genuine and not at all like a troll. He was very polite about the whole thing, if that makes any sense. I thought about saying anything at all to him, but everyone else who did was politely thanked and dismissed, and I couldn't think of anything original, so I held off on it. I had his comment saved, and I remember checking in on it sometime well after those 3 months, and he hadn't posted anything after that point. I still think about it from time to time. A young girl about 19, if I remember, posted on relationships about her father. He had a shed that he banned all members of the family from entering. One day she did. He had his computer in there. If I remember correctly, there were photos on the computer which showed animals that had been tortured and dismembered. The photos had clearly been taken in the shed. She said her dad was the perfect conservative dad. He seemed to realize that she had used his computer and things were tense in the house. She deleted the post within a few hours. I will post the link. There was a guy who posted about finding a weird hidden chamber behind a sealed manhole inside a motorway bridge as a teenager. Inside was a chair facing a wall, with a picture of a naked woman with the eyes cut out and a blood-soaked condom. Op delivered and went back years later and took photos. They're fucking terrifying. Here is the link. There was one where a lady was cleaning her house and found a tooth, and somebody jokingly said, "Somebody is living in your crawl space." But then a dentist looked at the tooth and revealed it was a child's tooth. The lady concluded there was certainly no child living in her attic. She couldn't shake the feeling that somebody was in her place though. So she goes in the attic and she says there's some things up there and calls the cops. Next day she updates that there was indeed a dude chilling in her attic, looking at porn, peeping on her shower, stealing her underwear, and collect urine and semen in jars. Turned out to be the local church pastor. It was insane to read that as it played out in real time. Not so much a mystery as it's clear what happened. But we never got closure on it. The user flip-flopped Datura post in r/drugs. Those of you who don't know, Datura is an extremely potent drug that's classified as a hallucinogenic deliriant. Unlike psychedelics, they give true hallucinations that are not discernible from reality. Like you will see your friend come in the room, have a long conversation only to have them disappear into smoke. It's also a very confusing and disorienting drug that obliterates short-term memory and lasts a long time. Even in r/drugs, a community where methamphetamine and crack cocaine abuse is openly talked about, the consensus from everyone was, "Don't do it, dude. This is a horrible idea." Here's the original post. The op decided, despite everyone saying dude, don't do it, to go ahead with it anyway. Not too long after, in that thread you can see him post, Google.com how normal again, stop now. Then the next and last thing he posts is in r/gaming, where he says, "Please, these big dog are fighting, nah, okay." Then nothing else. No one knows if he died of overdose. Not unlikely if what he said he took was true. He took a heroic dose, was a troll, or just suffered though that, learned a lesson and quit drugs forever. But there was nothing else posted by that account ever again. 2 years ago a woman posted about how her husband had started knowing things that happened in the house, like someone dropping by, but never entering the house, when he wasn't there. She mentioned he might be monitoring her, and seemed pretty frightened. Also mentioned that he was in IT and was probably on Reddit. After getting a ton of advice, she never posted again. Here is the original post written by her. I 26, female, think my husband 30, male. Might be spying on me while on business trips. I can't really prove it, but certain instances have me suspicious. My husband, Henry, and I have been married for almost 2 years, together for 5. We have a pretty normal relationship, and I've always felt that we share mutual trust in each other. We've never broken up, and I can't think of one situation where he would feel that I'm not trustworthy. I feel like I'm going crazy over this. Henry's career usually requires him to travel rarely, but this year is an exception. His company is in the middle of reorganization, and he has been traveling to do training seminars about once a month. His trips are usually Monday to Sunday. I've confirmed these trips and, yes, these are legitimate. I'd say we've been handling it well, but the past few months, my husband's been doing weird things that have caused me to believe he's spying on me or showing controlling tendencies. The first incident was at the end of March, when my husband came home and asked how my friend was doing with the death of her dog. At first, I said that she was sad but doing okay. About a minute later I asked how he knew that, and he said social media. The only reason I asked this was because I had a phone call in the living room with my friend when the dog died. Not only that, but my friend had deactivated her page before the dog died, so it wouldn't have been on there. I'm the only mutual friend he had with her, as well, so I don't think he would see anything that she was tagged in. I asked him if he's watching me, as a joke. And he said, "Seriously, why would you think that?" I explained it and he yelled, "No. It was on social media." I just assumed his defensiveness was because he had jet lag. The second incident was in April, when I went out with my friends during the weekend. That Saturday night, I had texted him that I would let him know when I'm home, and it should be around 12:30 a.m. I got home earlier at about 11 p.m. and fiddled around in the kitchen for probably 20 minutes. I'll admit I forgot to text him. I got a text at about 11:20 that said, "You were home?" I told him yes, that I was straightening the kitchen and then going to bed. I asked how he knew, and he said he just figured you would be all ready. He told me good night and I went to bed. Normally, I wouldn't think anything of this, but this latest incident has me looking back on the past few months. Henry got home early from this month's trip on Friday. I was super excited because he doesn't have trip until September. When he got home, he asked what I did all week. I explained all of my activities when he said, "Did you have any friends over?" I said no. And he said, "Oh, really?" I said yes, and at that point I was really confused because I truly didn't have any friends over. He just huffed and stormed off. Again, I assumed he was just tired. I went into the bedroom and asked if he was okay, and he said that he was. Later that night, we were talking about my week, and I mentioned my brother dropped off some photo albums of my dad and that I wanted to show him some. Henry said, "Oh, your brother was here. Okay." And then mumbled "That makes sense" as he walked away. I have really good hearing, and I don't think he thought I'd hear it. If he had a camera, is it possible he could have heard a male voice and assumed it was another male friend? My brother didn't come in the house, but we talked on the front porch with the front door open. I feel crazy just typing this. Sunday, because he was at his mom's, I decided to try and look around. I didn't want to be too obvious, so I kind of just nonchalantly walked around looking at things, accidentally knocking things over and looking at them when I picked them up, etc. I'm sure it was obvious because I got a call from him asking what I was doing. I told him just hanging out. When he said doing what? I told him I was watching TV. I did have the TV on. There was a pause and he said, "I'm leaving soon. I'll be home in 20 minutes. He was supposed to be there 3 more hours. Someone tell me I'm overreacting and this is not that strange. Am I digging too far into this? I don't know how he would know about my friend's dog and that I was home early the one night. There's got to be something going on, right? He's never acted like this before February. It's weird. I get home after him during the week so I don't get too much time alone, aside from showers, bathroom visits, etc. Help? I have 2 good ones, but I can't find the first one. The first one is a guy who started a thread asking how he could get a large amount of money like right now, and everyone replying was not taking it too seriously, until OP posted a picture of some shady guy standing in a parking lot and staring at this direction, which seemed to imply he was probably in a serious debt with some not really good people. He never replied to the thread. The other one was when a guy found what seemed to be a GPS tracker in his car. At first everyone was talking about if he rented the car from somewhere shady, maybe it was someone the government was tracking. Until the guy realized that the device would explain his extremely jealous girlfriend always seeming to know where he was, like he would be somewhere and she would just text him asking what he was doing in that place. One of his last posts he said he was going to confront her when he got home, since she wasn't replying any of his texts. He didn't post anything since then. There was a kid who took his car to the mechanic for routine work or something, and the mechanic found a GPS tracker attached to his car. Turns out the FBI was tracking this kid. He found out when the FBI showed up to his house when he tried to sell the device on Craigslist. There were news articles on it and everything. Edit, this was a quick comment I threw in, but to add to it, the kid posted the GPS tracker to Reddit asking if anyone knew what it was. Someone who worked at a place that manufactured the devices commented that it was a specific model GPS tracker that only law enforcement use. That's when shit hit the fan and things took off. I believe OP started connecting the dots, and then the feds showed up out of nowhere trying to intimidate him. A couple of months ago there was a post from a Russian lady who was sharing text messages she received from a guy while she was in a movie. He got really angry that she didn't reply, not knowing she was in a movie. The guy worked for the company she worked for and had been hoping to ask her out. I wasn't a member of Reddit then, but I downloaded the app after my friend showed me the post claiming the guy might be my boyfriend. He was. The Russian lady's post made the front page and she replied hundreds of times to people. She gave out enough information that I could see it was my boyfriend who contacted her. I confronted him and he confessed. We broke up shortly thereafter. The Russian lady's account doesn't seem to be active anymore. I don't want to mention her name for her privacy. I don't blame her because she didn't do anything. On the plus side, the entire event brought me to Reddit and I've enjoyed my experience here. It was an AskReddit thread on what is the weirdest thing that has ever happened to you? And someone replied how their phone just suddenly started making noises and a robotic woman's voice read off numbers, weird music, and random names. Someone replied, saying that that was a number station that somehow accidentally got broadcasted to his phone and it was possibly dangerous for him to continue to have that phone on him. The Redditor recommended he disassemble the phone, chuck the parts in several different locations, then leave town for a few days because he could possibly be assassinated. I don't know how legit that post was, but it sure creeped me out. The U/Stone Tier saga was and still is incredibly mysterious. Several years ago, this guy asked for help in irretrievably deleting a very VIP individual's computer files and specifically any emails stored on it. During the 2016 election, folks from r/conspiracy and subsequently r/technology did some digging and found very convincing evidence that this guy was Hillary Clinton's top IT consultant, and that in all probability his posts on Reddit asking for help deleting something were directly related to the now notorious missing emails from Clinton's time as Secretary of State. What made this even more mysterious at the time was that OP began to delete all of their old Reddit posts shortly after the initial articles claiming a Clinton link, so that people ended up being able to actually watch and screenshot in real time as the account was deleted post by post. That, in many people's minds, added enormous weight to the claims being made, but ultimately we'll probably never know one way or another. I remember a story where a guy was driving somewhere. On the way, he was robbed by a thief. The thief stole his car and wallet. The guy somehow managed to reach home after a couple of days and realized his family was having his funeral. Everyone was shocked to see him as they thought the dead body lying there was him. Turns out, the thief who stole his car and wallet had an accident and crashed with an oil tanker and died in the blast. His body was fully burned and was unidentifiable. The family recognized the body by checking the identity in the wallet. Read one a few nights ago about a guy who as a kid had an accident that rendered his arms useless for a while. As a result, his mom offered to help him masturbate, which led to him and his mom having a sexual relationship until he was in his early 20s. He had answered thousands of questions about the whole ordeal within 2 days or so, and there were still thousands pouring in. OP didn't think it was that big of a deal. Most everyone else, however, not so much. I believe it was on r/confused boner or something that I stumbled, and I mean really stumbled across. Fucked me up for a couple hours after that. Like a train wreck, you know, can't look away but you really don't want to watch. But I gotta tell you that sexual abuse is so much more common than people think. I learned this while working in education, sadly. To help visualize it, in any class of 25 kids at any age level, really, at least a couple of them are being victimized. Maybe a little more. And in so many more ways than people might think. It's heartbreaking. One that I wish I could find again was about a guy who was taking a really long solo hike. It was going to last for a couple weeks and take him over a few states in the Southwest. Early in the trip, he met an older couple, 50s, maybe, wearing white clothes. They were friendly, but a bit creepy. So the guy continues his trek, and starts to feel that he's being followed. At one point, he rushes down, across, and back up a small canyon, then hides on the other side and watches. Sure enough, a little while later, he spies the man and woman in white, following behind him and climbing down into the canyon. It was a creepy story, but I forgot a lot of the details and would love to read it again. Bit late to this, but how about the guy who uploaded around 5 to 10 videos of surveillance footage on YouTube about a suspicious van that kept coming around his house? The videos escalate in suspiciousness. In the descriptions of the videos he would go on to describe things. He talked about how he was causing his city a lot of legal trouble because he had exposed something and they were getting sick of him. He ends up predicting his own death by the final video. His house was lit on fire and he had been stabbed multiple times. It's a real story, hopefully someone can find it. There was this one post was about a woman who had been poisoned by her mother-in-law. I can't remember all of the specific details as I had my own shitstorm happening, but it went something like she started getting really sick after eating at her in-laws. She didn't have any allergies and nobody else got food poisoning, so she couldn't figure out what was happening. She collected a food sample and had it tested, but there was no trace of poison. The next time they ate at the in-laws' house, she switched her water glass with her less than supportive husband just to see what happened. Mother-in-law saw and made a big deal about it. Husband switched the glasses back and scolded OP. She said she was going to try to collect a water sample to get that tested for poison. The post was deleted, and as far as I know she hasn't posted since. I was browsing r/all by new when I came across user Bullworth1998, a brand new account, spamming pictures of women to his user page. I stuck around because he was posting them every 3 minutes and they got weirder as he kept posting them. There are pictures of 3 women on the page, and the last woman's pictures are labeled "my first victim." He posted about 10 or so more pictures of the woman and then posted a really NSFW one, and I almost had a heart attack. After the initial shock of seeing that image, I realized that it looks a lot like makeup, so I waited around for more. He posted one more image and then stopped posting entirely. After I was sure he was done, I quickly saved his entire page as a PDF. Once I realized the PDF was poorly formatted, I went back to get better screenshots and all of the posts had been deleted. There was a guy who posted on the r/opiate subreddit about wanting to eyeball a dose of carfentanil, a synthetic opioid that is 100 times more potent than the same amount of fentanyl. Being in the same room as this shit without breathing protection can cause an OD. You literally cannot take this stuff by eyeballing a dose without dying. The account was fairly new and many people, myself included, advised he didn't do it, like desperately urging him to think twice about it. He would pretty much say the same stuff about how he didn't really care too much about the consequences and it was too much trouble to do it safely. He started posting about the effects he felt, He said he was going to do more, and then nothing. Mods deleted the post so as to not incite more people to do dumb shit like that, but I would regularly check on that dude's account, and those were his last posts. Even though it might not be too much of a mystery of what probably happened to that guy, I still think about him from time to time. If you guys like this video, please drop a like and subscribe, and also check out my Instagram account Scary Time that is linked in the description, and as always, stay scary.